Hello, I'm Lynn Thurman, and you are watching the Inner Goddess interviews. And today I'm absolutely delighted to have fellow Brit with me, artist Sarah Leonard from CuriouslySarah.com. Hello, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me, Lynn. It's really good. I kind of stumbled across your site, and it just seemed so much related to the things that I do that I couldn't not get in touch, basically.
I'm really pleased you did. What I'm really excited about is that you've got an Inner Goddess art course starting in January, and of course that's something that I'm really passionate about, like the Inner Goddess. Tell me more about it. Tell me how it came into existence.
Yeah, the course itself actually, well, it sounds awful, but the course itself wasn't really my idea. I was approached locally by a lady who she'd seen in other cities in the UK that people do these capturing your goddess kind of courses, and she really, really wanted to do that herself, but there was no official group in the local area for doing that. So she kind of invited me out for a cup of coffee, and sort of told me what she wanted to do. And basically we spent about 8 weeks together, and during those 8 weeks she really wanted to learn new art techniques, but she also, the end product of what she wanted to achieve was to get onto canvas a goddess painting, so a painting of her goddess self, which sort of accentuated all of her most goddess-like qualities and her most positive qualities, I suppose. So we spent, like I say, about 8 weeks together working one-to-one, getting this canvas together. And it was fantastic. I really enjoyed doing it. She got an awful lot out of it. I know the lady that I worked with herself, she goes to an awful lot of other craft groups and things in the local area, and I know a lot of the people that run those, and they have noticed a huge difference in her from the beginning of doing this canvas to the end, because she used to be a very sort of shy, reserved kind of person, and if she wasn't sure about something she'd kind of just sort of back away and not really join in, but since completing the canvas she's sort of apparently taking over the craft class and suggesting different things, and she just gets straight on and tries different things now where she never did before. So the end result of the course was that she got this goddess painting that she so wanted to display in her house, and she did do it all herself. It wasn't one of those things where I sneakily did it and she took credit for it. She did it all herself, and she'd never drawn before, never painted before really, but also she got this huge confidence boost knowing that she could do something that previously she thought was out of her reach, kind of idea. So yeah, I really enjoyed the course, and after we'd finished I just kind of thought this would be a really brilliant course to offer to people online. I could offer it to so many more people and sort of get it to reach out all around the world really if I could offer it online. So I started sort of planning and plotting and scheming and recording videos and setting up websites and all of that kind of business. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to the launch. It launches in January, and it's a 6-part course, and it takes you through all kinds of different mixed media techniques, including things like using fabric. A lot of people have things that are like fabric or clothes that are quite sentimentally important to them, that they don't want to throw away, but they don't really know what to do with. And so part of the canvas was including some of that fabric. So actually being able to use fabric as part of your art, and with the canvas with the local lady, we used a bit of crochet as part of the artwork as well. So it's kind of encouraging people to use many different techniques to sort of bring a bit of themselves onto the canvas, but in their most goddess-like form, if that makes sense.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. Yeah, so do you kind of use bits and pieces that you have around the house as well? You don't have to go out and spend a fortune on new art supplies, unless of course you want to, because it could be a perfect excuse to go and get new stuff.
Yeah, I think that was part of the thing with the course as well. When I did it with the local lady, it was kind of a case of she could use all of my equipment at home and find which things she liked, which things worked for her, rather than going out and buying a whole load of different equipment and finding that half of what she bought isn't really what she thought it was, and She's not sure how to use it. Obviously, with it being an online course, you can't come to my house and use my things, unfortunately, but I can give you a list of things that I would recommend to use. So if you are thinking of doing a bit of having a bit of an investment in some new bits and pieces, then that would obviously help point you in the right direction. But I mean, basically, if you've got sort of some acrylic paints knocking around, if you've even got oil paints knocking around, watercolours knocking around, whatever paints you have in the house, you would need to have some paint of some description, obviously, in order to create something. But really, I'd say that you could use this course with almost anything. If you're working on canvas, obviously you'd need to be thinking along the lines of acrylics and oil paints. Watercolour, obviously, on canvas isn't a particularly good option, but there's nothing to stop you working on paper rather than canvas if watercolour is your thing, you know. But it is a case of things that you have lying as well. So if you have sort of papers and old pictures and bits of vintage magazines, vintage music paper, bits and pieces like that, those can be collaged into the canvas. Bits of fabric that you love, you know, a little bit you really like the look of, but it's too small to do anything with, so you have to keep it. Those kinds of little bits and pieces could be incorporated into the canvas as well. It's not the kind of course that would necessarily cost you a fortune in terms of supplies. I mean, you could go all out and buy everything on my list if you'd like to have, but bear in mind that list of things I like to have is a kind of supply chest of equipment that I've built up over a course of 2-3 years. It's not something that I went out and bought all at once, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend someone go out and buy all of that at once either, because as you quite rightly say, that becomes then very, very expensive. So yeah, you could make it with anything you have around. I mean, I like to use mixed media techniques, but I also like to do illustrations. And really, I mean, if you have a fine black pen and some alcohol markers, you could do a pretty good representation of your goddess using those and a little bit of glitter if you wanted to. You know, there's no restriction necessarily in terms of materials. It's up to you to decide what you want to use, really. And within the course, it's a 6-part course, and the main focus of the course will be the mixed media aspect, but I'm also including some bonus videos of different goddesses that I've created using different techniques and more minimal resources, if that makes sense. So if there are people that perhaps don't have the full arsenal of art supplies, they could perhaps use those as their basis for creating their work, if that makes sense.
Do you need any kind of artistic skills to partake, or is this open for anyone, or including people who think that they have no artistic skills whatsoever?
Yeah, that's funny, because I would put, you say about people that think they have no artistic skills whatsoever, I would have put myself in that category about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I would have said, oh, I'm no good at art, I can't draw, I can't do any of this, I'm no good at this, I'm no good at that. I would have said that about myself.
Wow.
And if people do if people do venture over to my website, you will look at it and you would, I think now, be surprised to hear that I ever said that, really. You would be surprised that I could possibly have thought that, especially so recently. I think the thing with art is that, and music as well, is that people think that you have to have a gift for it, a natural gift. You should, you know, at the age of 5, you should pick up a pencil and be able to draw something fantastic. And if you can't, well, then you're no good at art, you'll never be any good at art. That's not really true. It's like anything else. It's something that you can learn to do. And like I say, 4 or 5 years ago, I had no art experience whatsoever. I had always wanted, I can remember ever since I was very little, always wanting to do art. And I'm not really sure if there was somebody at some stage that said, oh, well, you're not really very good at this, are you, Sarah? Maybe you should concentrate on something else. I'm not sure if there's anyone who said that. I don't remember that specifically. But my my overriding feeling was that I'm no good at art, I can't really do this, so I might as well not bother. And I'd had that all of my life, but it was still then niggling at me at the back of my mind, oh, I'd really like to do this, I'd really like to have a go at this, I'd really like to have a go at that. So if you are someone who's sitting at home and thinking, well, that's all very well, that course is for artists, isn't it, that's not for me, I would say that it's only really in the last few years I've decided to call myself an artist. And before that time, I was of the I can't draw brigade, and that's firmly where I thought I would always be. So if you are thinking, well, I'd like that, but I reckon I couldn't do it, I think you'd surprise yourself. I think you'd find that you could do it after all. It's all very step-by-step instruction. You can follow me exactly, or you can go off on your own little tangent. It's entirely up to you. But I think, like I say, you'd surprise yourself with what you can do, in fact.
It sounds like it's, instead of some like a course in fine art where you're going to turn out to be like the next Picasso, it's more like an expression, a visual expression of your soul. It sounds absolutely fascinating.
I guess that's kind of what it is. It's kind of releasing out your innermost self, your most, I don't know, your most perfect version of yourself, your most goddess, shiny, sparkly version of yourself. And rather than, I mean, we're all sort of brought up to not be a big head, not be a show-off, not do this, not do that, you know, not draw attention to ourselves for the wrong reason. I think this course allows you, on canvas anyway, even if you're not shouting from the rooftops about how fantastic you are, the canvas will do it for you when you've finished. You know, the canvas itself will represent you at your most shiny and goddess-like. So if you are quite a shy person, you can let that speak for you. And I think that's part of the brilliance of the course in its own ways, and just of actually doing the artwork itself. It does, you think, oh well, I'm going to learn some new skills and I'm going to learn how to draw a face. Yes, you are, but it does so much more than that in terms of confidence and in terms of opening you up to just being more accepting of yourself, being more confident of yourself and of your abilities, and just being more open to the idea that actually, you know, your story isn't finished yet. You don't know how it's going to end. You know, your life path could go in any direction from here. I think taking part in artwork like this has that unexpected, I suppose, side effect of really opening you up and opening yourself up to multiple opportunities that otherwise I think you probably would have closed the door to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it sounds brilliant. Is it actually just a 6-part course, or is it a 6-week course? Can people work at their own pace, or will you be taking each step with them?
Well, it's a 6-part course. I didn't call it a 6-week course because I know from my own experience, when I sign up to an art I'm really enthusiastic about, I tend to just sort of gobble it up in one big chunk. Like, you know, there'll be a 6-week course and I'll have it all done within a weekend because I'll just get so excited and I'll be watching the videos and staying up till goodness knows what time at night, just working away. The way that the course is structured is that all of the materials will be on an exclusive website. So once you have signed up for the course, you'll be able to just pace. The course at the moment is not due to launch until January, but I am taking early bird bookings at the moment. So if you were to sort of jump on board now, you wouldn't be able to access anything until January, basically. But once that the 5th date rolls around, you can work through the materials at your own pace. So if you're a gobbler like me and you like to just sort of just do everything really fast, then you can do it that way. If you're a bit more sort of sensible and you'd like to just sort of go through things at a reasonable pace, then perhaps 6 weeks would be a good time frame for doing the course. You know, take a part each week or a part each weekend. For some people, obviously, you know, working during the week, it might be that weekends are the best time, but you will be able to sort of pace yourself. But there'll also be a private Facebook group for sharing and connecting and adding extra questions that perhaps I haven't covered in the video or the PDF. There's always some question that you don't remember to answer, if that makes sense. And usually, you know, people are grateful of the opportunity to then be able to ask that question.
That sounds fantastic. So you're there to like handhold as well. That's brilliant. Can you tell me a bit about how you went from being a non-drawer, a non-artist, to where you are now? Where were you before, and what changed? What was that moment where you thought, no, I'm going to do this. This is what I really, really want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd always been a creative person, and like I mentioned, I think earlier on about, I'm not sure if there was somebody at some stage in school that said to me, well, you're not really very good at drawing. I don't specifically remember that, but that's the feeling I had for all the way through my school life, really. I was a musician at school, so I played brass instruments. I played the euphonium and the trombone, and I kind of allowed my creativity to go wild in that sort of direction rather than in the art direction for many years. But it had always been there at the back of my mind that I wanted to do art. I'd always had this sort of, that kind of niggling, that little sort of someone scratching at your mind, you know, kind of that's what I really would like to do. And I'd always had that there right the way through my life. And then it came to about 2007, I think it was, and I've been working as a music teacher in a very busy school for a long, long time, and I mean, I don't know how much people know about the sort of school system in the UK, but teaching is quite a stressful job, actually, and I found myself quite burnt out and suffering quite badly with depression. But having never had depression at all before, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I think I'd had it by the time I sought any help. I'd had it for about 5 years, sneaking up on me in that way that it does. And it was at that point when I was literally, I was pretty much broken, to be honest. And someone gave me the book, The Secret, which is obviously now very well known, but at the time to me was a complete revelation. Like this idea of I'd always been taught things by my parents who obviously wanted to sort of shield me from disappointment, but things like, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't get your hopes up too much because I don't want you to be upset if it doesn't work out. Those kind of truisms. And obviously the secret is the opposite of that. You know, you have to think entirely positively all the time, which brings its own challenges. But just the idea of that was a revelation to me. And that's what really pushed me into starting to blog. When I started to blog, I started to look at other people's blogs, and I started to notice artists who were blogging and who had things like Etsy shops and things like that. And that was the proverbial rabbit hole for me. I was Alice in Wonderland at that stage, and I was off down this rabbit hole of blogging and starting to make artwork. I signed up for a local adult ed class to do artwork. I actually paid for a holiday in Spain, an art holiday, with a fantastic teacher. He was a retired art teacher from the UK. I'd bought a villa over in Spain and had the most fantastic week just learning all these different techniques. And he took me from start to finish with a painting, and it went from there. And after that I kind of started doing online courses with other artists, and once I started doing it, there's now no way that I could stop doing it now. It's one of those things that I think should really have always been there. I find it's something that really helps to sort of heal the soul, because I still have bouts of depression from time to time. Anyone who suffers depression will know that it's not necessarily the kind of thing that you can just kick and never see again. It tends, unfortunately, to find its way back to you at some stage. But the artwork really, really helps. So I spent quite a bit of time coming up with courses and different ideas, and basically using techniques that I've used on myself that I know work, and I've put a lot of that kind of energy into a lot of my courses as well. So, for example, the Journal with Purpose e-course was based on the that I used myself the last time I suffered with depression to try and help bring me out of that. So really that's my kind of journey. That was my trigger. That really dark period in my life was my trigger to actually, no, come on, you can't just keep ignoring this anymore. Yes, you are creative with your music, but this artwork needs to be needs to be acknowledged, you know. It's just going to keep bugging you if you don't do it. So that was the trigger that got me started. And once I'd got started, like I say, there's no way of stopping. I think I'll be scribbling and drawing and painting and making a mess until the day I'm too old to do it.
Oh, do you still teach at all music, or have you embraced an entrepreneur lifestyle now?
I still teach music as well. I teach mostly privately now, one-to-one, which is much less stressful and very, very enjoyable, actually. I think the worst thing about teaching in schools really is all of the paperwork and all of the having to cover yourself and prove that you're doing the job that you're doing. Which I suppose is probably the same with almost any job, but you kind of have to sort of guard against people that will try and just be lazy and do nothing. But when you're not the type of person who will just be lazy and do nothing, it's quite distressing actually having to keep doing all of that type of stuff. So the private teaching works out brilliantly because I'm answerable really only to myself and to the parents of the child. If the parents see that the child is doing well and they're getting better and they're bidding for exams and pathos, then that's all the proof that I need, really. So now I'm still teaching music, teaching art as well, and also teaching. I do a bit of sort of web and blog design teaching because obviously I've set up my own blog and website myself and learned an awful lot along the way. So I'm passing some of that along, and I'm also doing beginner computer lessons for, I suppose, for older folk who want to kind of get online but aren't really sure. And I really enjoy those sort of private, satisfying in its own way to sort of, someone comes to you with a specific problem that they want to learn how to do, and you then take them through it. That's a nice job to have, I think.
It sounds brilliant. I really love what you're doing. I'm really excited about Capture Your Inner Goddess. I mean, well, I'm going to sign up for that. I'm going to do it. And before I, wimp out, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it today. Where can people find you, Sarah? And where can they sign up for this course?
Okay. The course itself is, I think, probably the best place to find links to the course would be my blog, actually. And my website, if you go to curiouslysarah.com, you will see across the top there is a link to a blog. My blog is actually a cat-like curiosity.blogspot.co.uk, and at the moment, because the course is a new thing and it's all very sparkly and exciting, all of my blog posts at the bottom there is a little banner that says Capture Your Inner Goddess. So if people were to click on that banner, it would take them to a page that explains everything about it, and then they can head on over to Etsy and purchase it. Or they can go directly to my shop. Again, if you go to curiouslysarah.com, there is a link at the top to my Etsy shop, and I have a section called e-learning, which has all of my e-courses and e-books and different things in. So people can go that route as well. But if they want to know a bit more about it, I do have on the page on my website about the course. I do have a video with me sort of chattering about it, showing different pictures and different examples and things, so people might want to sort of go along to there. But if you go to my blog, first of all, like I say, at the bottom of every post at the moment there is a Capture Your Inner Goddess banner that you can click, and that will take you directly to the page that's all about it. I would say that's probably the best way to find it for people that aren't sure. And if anyone's stuck and can't find it, they can always send me an email or whatever, and I can point them in the right direction.
Fantastic. So that's curiouslysarah.com, and you'll find everything you need there to start the course and find out more about Sarah and everything that she's doing, because you must go, because she's fantastic. Do it. Thank you so much for this time with me today, Sarah. It's been great. Thank you for sharing your art and your visions and your stories. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Lynn. It's great to talk to everyone.
Thank you. You have been watching the Inner Goddess interviews. I'm Lynn Thurman, and I have been talking with Sarah Leonard today. Thank you. Bye.